Hi guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. So in between the 500 subscriber Q&A videos that I'm uploading to this channel, I also wanted to release some original content. So one of the questions that I get asked through the articles that I write through Antiques and Auction News comes to me from a longtime reader who is in college at present time. He's in his early 20s. He wants to know, is it possible in present day to manipulate the antiques and collectibles trade to benefit one financially? The answer to that question is a resounding yes. Now, before we go any further, there's several things that you got to understand about this video. This is going to be a very controversial video to a lot of my more casual viewers out there. You have to understand that in order for me to teach you how to recognize the signs of market manipulation in the antiques and collectibles trade, I pretty much have to teach you how to manipulate the market. Now, before we go any further and you start clicking the unsubscribe button or you leave me a nasty comment, hear me out for a minute here, guys. This has been going on for decades in the trade, number one. Number two, the people who can manipulate these markets all possess three things. These three things are vital to manipulating any free market system, which is what most of the antiques and collectibles trade is. And if you're wondering why I say most, there are certain segments of the trade, like if you want to sell or deal in antique ivory products or firearms that are of the more modern era, those particular categories of the collectibles trade are regulated. For instance, ivory has been a hot topic for several years now, where a lot of people feel that antique ivory should not be regulated like it is because a lot of those particular items doesn't really influence modern day poaching of elephants and the like for their ivory tusks because those particular collectibles were already hunted many years ago. Well, the government disagrees. And if you start selling antique ivory, you can be fined and or possibly jailed for violating the law that dictates that particular collecting category. Same thing is true with firearms. You're okay if you engage in certain antique firearms, but once you cross over and you start dealing in modern era collectible firearms, you're going to be regulated. Whether you agree with that or not, it's just the way the market is. But overall, the antiques and collectibles trade is a free market system. Now, before we go any further, the three things that somebody has to have if they want to manipulate the antiques and collectibles trade is an understanding of the antiques and collectibles marketplace as a whole, or more specifically, an understanding of the market and or collectible category that they want to manipulate. Number two, they have to have a lot of money. Let's be honest here. You cannot manipulate a trade or a collecting category with just a few $1,000s or even $10,000. If you're going to try to manipulate an antique and collectible category as a whole, you're probably going to need $50,000 at least, and if not, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so, depending on what market you pick to manipulate. For instance, if you're going to go in the coin collecting marketplace with 100 grand and you think you're going to manipulate the market overall, you're not. You may be able to manipulate certain segments of the market. For instance, if you wanted to get involved with Carson City, Morgan Silver dollars, or Walking Liberty halves, those particular markets could be manipulated with a sizable sum of money in the tune of $100,000 or even less. You could pretty much do some damage in that market. Now, you're also going to have an understanding of economics and finance. This is where it gets a little bit complex because not only do you have to understand the collecting category as a whole that you want to manipulate, you also have to understand the economics and the financial fundamentals that make up that collecting category. For instance, there are certain parameters and dynamics of the rare art market that are different from the rare coin market or the vintage video game market or the Magic the Gathering market. Do you see what I mean? So you really have to know how to apply economics and finance to the specific market that you're trying to manipulate. Now, why am I bringing this up as a topic? Well, several years ago, one of the best books that I ever read on the antiques and collectibles trade was written. And actually, I should say several decades ago, because this book premiered in 1988. Now, as I've said before in other videos, I learned the antiques and collectibles trade at the ripe young age of 12. A lot of my mentors were very successful in the trade. Most of these guys, unfortunately, are dead now. Most of them died with significant net worths. And a lot of them taught me a lot of the market fundamentals that I teach on this channel and also through the articles that I write through Antiques and Auction News. Now, you may disagree with some of these fundamentals. It's okay. I get it. You're not going to agree with everything I say overall. But a lot of the points that they make are pretty much common sense and sorely lacking in the overall antiques and collectibles trade of today, which is unfortunately speculative driven. Now, if you're going to manipulate the antiques and collectibles trade, this is what you need to have to be able to do it, and this is also the recipe to do it. So before I go any further, again, I understand that this is very controversial, but in order for me to explain to you how certain markets right now are being manipulated, I have to show you how somebody of advanced means can easily manipulate these markets, especially in the age of online auctions, eBay auctions, and speculative-driven online collecting forums like Nintendo Age, or I should say what was Nintendo Age, because now it's Go Collect. I have a whole video on that topic coming out, guys, so just stay tuned to this channel if you're interested to hear my thoughts on Go Collect and Nintendo Age and Dane Anderson and the whole sellout and fiasco that ensued. But anyway, getting back to this particular topic, you have to understand that it is very easy to manipulate these markets in present day. So, the first thing you have to have, if you're going to manipulate a market in the antiques and collectibles trade, and you're doing so to benefit yourself financially, you have to have a position in that particular market. So, if you want to manipulate the vintage video game market and you collect vintage Magic cards, well, obviously, it doesn't benefit you at all then if you go out and try to manipulate the vintage video game market. You see what I'm saying? So you already have to have a position, a financial position in these markets. So if you want to manipulate the vintage Pokemon market, chances are you probably already collect and have a sizable position in vintage Pokemon cards. If you want to manipulate the antique glass collecting market, you probably already have a significant position and or a very large collection of vintage and or antique bottles and or related glass collectibles. It's no different. Now, you also, as I stated before, have to have a ton of money. We are talking $50,000, $100,000 and or more to do this right. Another thing you have to have is you have to be able to create hype and or create market mania. Now, this goes back to online collecting forums, auction sites, and the like. If you have I'm just going to use this as an example, and this is nothing against Heritage, because I do a ton of business with Heritage as it is, but if you have a Heritage Auctions account, and you go on the account, and you start looking at coins or whatever market you want to manipulate, and you start bidding up a lot of these individual items that you think are undervalued, or items that you want to make the overall collecting community think are undervalued, if you start bidding on these items in mass, eventually what's going to happen is some of the items you're going to win, some of them you're not going to win. Well, obviously, you're going to have to pay for the items that you win. So it's considered kind of a lost leader because you're pretty much stroking the market in an inappropriate manner. Meaning, let's say somebody like me who likes coins. I will sometimes, and I'm going to state this right here, and you guys can hate me all you want, since I like Carson City Silver Morgan dollars, I will log on the Heritage, and let's say that I already own an 1881 Carson City Morgan Silver Dollar in MS66. I will go on their website, and I will occasionally bid up MS66 1881 Carson City Morgan dollars. Now, if I win that item again, let's say that I get a little careless, I get carried away, and I end up winning the bid for that item, I will gladly pay for that 1881 Carson City Morgan Silver Dollar. But What my main goal is, I am trying to increase the value of that particular item overall across the board, regardless of whether the fact I own it or not. Now, what I'm doing when I do that is I am bidding up somebody else who most likely doesn't have an 1881 Carson City Morgan silver dollar. But I could also be bidding against a dealer who wants it for his inventory. So whether I win the bid or not, it still affects the market as a whole, because the person that wins that item, that end auction price gets cemented as an end final value price for that item in question. So for instance, if there's an 1881 Carson City Morgan silver dollar in MS66 and it's going for $1,200 and I bid on it and I take the bid up to $1,300, somebody outbids me, bids it up to $1,400, I bid again and I bid it all the way up to $1,490. If somebody else comes along and bids $1,550, they won the bid fair and square. They can buy that item at that price. They won the bid. However, here's something that most people don't realize. Those bids that I put in on that item, that bid that item up to $1,550, are still valid. That person pretty much paid through my manipulation. That's why you have to be very careful when you get in some of these collecting markets, that you understand that people are bidding you up, not just because they want to own the item, but because they want to ensure that the end price of that item that they're bidding on remains high across the board, because it creates the allure of value and or demand. That's market manipulation in a sense. Now, let's go back to our example here. Let's say that you're already working on creating hype. You're already trying to build the market up for whatever market you want to manipulate in the antiques and collectibles trade. So let's say that you want to manipulate the vintage video game market. Well, you would go on to a lot of the collecting sites that are geared towards vintage video games, and you would start hyping up the hobby. You would create speculative demand for these particular items. Now, another thing that you can do, you can write or produce original content either on YouTube, on blogs, or in professional publications. Now, the one thing I will caution about you guys is, if you're like me, you're somebody who writes for Antiques and Auction News or any other professional publication out there, you have to be very careful how you present information to the collecting public. For instance, I adhere to a lot of ethics that some of my fellow columnists in the antiques and collectibles trade don't always adhere to. So when I talk about collecting markets, whether it be WATA-graded video games, coins, currency, artwork, toys, I always caution my readers against investing in those items if they don't understand the fundamentals of the market dynamics at play. That is something you have to be very careful about, because I report to an editor when I write articles for Antiques and Auction News. That editor doesn't have to publish any of my articles. I pretty much send him an article, he reads it, he approves it, he gives the the go ahead, and the article becomes published on their website and in print form. Well, if I'm engaging in market manipulation through the writing of my articles, that can be an ethical violation against me, where a lot of people in the trade then will look at that and they'll say, well, if this guy keeps writing articles, we're not going to publish his articles. He's engaged in unethical behavior as a result. So you have to be very careful. If you're trying to manipulate the market for the antiques and collectibles trade, you're going to be better off writing for blogs, creating YouTube videos, or doing content where it's not being filtered through a third party or a company like the Antiques Journal or the Main Antiques Digest, any of those publications that vet the material that they publish. So if you're going to manipulate the market, you're better off using an online blog, an online collecting forum, or a YouTube channel, because it's very easy to manipulate the market with a YouTube channel. We're seeing that right now with a lot of these guys that have 100,000, 250,000, 500,000 subscribers, and all they do is talk about comic books or toys or video games and the like. Now, the next thing you need to do is you need to start teaming up with reputable auctioneers, and you also have to create a stable and or confident market. Wink, wink. If you can't create a stable or confident market, all you got to do is create a grading company. Make sure that graded company is well financed, put it out there, and make sure that people know that that grading company exists. And then if you team up with reputable auctioneers, that grading company is guaranteed to get off the ground. And even if you want to manipulate the market even more, you can go after one of the holy grails of the market, and you can pretty much have it sell on the secondary market, but you can have people affiliated with your company bid up that particular item and even win the bid. And as long as they announce that the people who bidded up that item are affiliated with that grading company and or the auctioneering companies that you teamed up with to create a reputable source, guess what? You can manipulate the market as a whole. So if you're wondering what example I'm using there, it's Wada Games. That's why, guys, in the video I did where I talk about Pawn Stars, Wada Games, and the Super Mario scandal that occurred in Season 17, when you guys disagree with me that that was market manipulation, I just told you how to manipulate the market, and I pretty much use a blueprint for what people are already doing right now. So if you thumbs down this video and you tell me that I shouldn't have released this material, I certainly hope that you're not collecting graded video games or vintage video games at present time, because that's exactly what's happening on the market as a whole. Now, I got to admit, this probably isn't the best video that I produced because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm filming this video. I'm very tired. I'm trying to drink sparkling water to stay awake. It's not working too well because I don't drink caffeine. And I also wanted to have a discussion about this particular book that was released in 1988. This particular book is by Harry L. Rinker, and it's called How to Make the Most of Your Investments in Antiques and Collectibles. Now, the subtitle states, The First Insider's Guide to Manipulating the Antiques and Collectibles Markets to Maximize Your Investments. Well, guys, I got some good news. You can get this book for under $10 on Amazon or A-Books. Now, most of you are going to get this book. You're going to glance through it, and you're going to go, Sean, this book reads like stereo instructions. I don't care to read this book. Well, ironically, others of you are going to get this book, and you're going to go, my gosh, this dude was onto something back in 1988 before even e-commerce existed in the trade. And you're going to get a fundamental understanding as to how today, in 2019 and beyond, just how easy it is to manipulate markets in the greater antiques and collectibles trade if you have money, understand the markets, and also have an education in economics and finance. And that pretty much is the topic I wanted to convey in this video. So whether you love me or loathe me for it, just understand, guys, a lot of markets out there in the antiques and collectibles trade are being manipulated en masse. And let me leave you with one final point. Since you watched the video 18 minutes in, I want to state this. What market do you think is going to be the easiest to manipulate? Is it going to be an established collecting category like coins, currency, artwork, collectible first edition books? Or is it going to be a speculative market like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or vintage video games? Well, the answer is easy. It's a lot easier to manipulate a new collecting category than it is to manipulate an established collecting category. So that should tell you something right there. For all you guys that think investing in Magic cards, investing in video games, investing in Pokemon is stable with no risk and there's no shenanigans going on behind the scenes, well, let this video and this book be a lesson to you, because market manipulation has been going on in the antiques and collectibles trade for decades. And I know people who have made millions in doing it, and people right now are making millions doing it at your expense. Let me leave you with one final thought, too. If graded video games are such a great investment, and people are thinking, I can't wait to see what these items sell for in the future. How come Dane Anderson sold his collection? How come a lot of these other collectors are letting all of these pieces go for tens and thousands of dollars, or in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars? Why are they selling if these items are such good long-term investments? Ask yourself that before you spend any serious money in these markets. Thank you and good night. Please subscribe to the channel. Please leave me comments and feedback on this particular video. Have a good one.